Hi kids, it's Mrs. B from Eastminster Presbyterian Church, and I'm here today to read a story from you from Growing in God's Love, a Story Bible. And we'd like to thank John Knox Press for giving us permission to read the story to you today. Oh, by the way, I think you may have noticed I'm wearing a silly hat. So maybe you'd like to go get a silly hat too, or your favorite blanket or pillow, and join me while we read from a story Bible. Where does God live? When someone asks you where you live, you might say 4197 Daisy Lane, or Tennessee, or in a yellow house. But where does God live? The Bible tells us that God has many homes and can be found in many places, often where we least expect. God is found in the beauty and magnificence of nature, in thunder, in fire and bushes, in the wind, and in a peaceful dove. Jesus often traveled into the wilderness to listen for God's voice. He knew that God could be found in nature. Many of the words used to describe God in the Bible also give clues to where God might be found. Breath, light, mother, father, water, bread of life. These images are like a pin in a map, giving us great ideas of where to look for God. Breath, mother, and father suggest that God lives very, very close to us. God is in our homes, in the people we love the most, and in our bodies. Light and water tell us that God lives near the earth, from the highest heights to the deepest depths. God moves, connecting us all to one another. Say, take a look at the pictures in our story today. We see a young boy or a young man at a campfire, and there's his thermos and his backpack and his tent, and he's in nature, in the wilderness. Perhaps God is with him at that fireside. And our other picture is a city or a town or a village, maybe much like where you live, and it shows a community of people together and enjoying each other's company. Bread of Life helps us to see God in simple moments, like sitting around the dinner table, sharing a meal with family or friends. Solomon built a house for God, and we do the same today. People who love God build sanctuaries and synagogues, mosques, and gurdwaras, places where they can be close to God. God doesn't live there, but we feel God's love when we are there. But God isn't just found in people or things. God is also found in love. We know that God is the source of love. That means that when we treat one another with love, God is there. The best way to discover God's address is to love yourself and others well. When you love like that, you will find God. Do you have a sense that God is in nature when you play outside and feel the warm sun on your back? Perhaps you feel God's presence when your parents tuck you in at night, or when your friend gives you a big hug. No matter where else God might live, one thing is certain: God lives in you. So, I'd like you to put your head on your parent's chest sometime today and listen for a heartbeat. That's a God sound. And this week, before we meet again, why don't you look to see where else you think God lives? And what are some ways you can be a strong home for God's presence? So thank you for joining me today during story time. And I want you to remember that God loves you, Eastminster Church loves you, and I love you. See you next week.